What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Ben Ballion, back with another episode of the Sports Pod. And today I'm going to give you the top storylines and headlines from the past week in the NBA. On the other side of the intro, I'll take you around the association. Hit it.
DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Got the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career.
All right, getting into the episode. Let's start with my first storyline, and that's the Warriors having a slow week. And I think this is more than just a slow week. I think it's the start of their fall off. I mean, you couldn't expect a Warriors team where the best player, obviously it's Steph Curry, but outside of Steph Curry, I mean, Andrew Wiggins can be an all-star. You got Draymond Green. But especially for Curry and Green, like these guys are getting a little bit older. It's just a fact. Father Time is undefeated. Curry's 36. Draymond's 34. Like these guys are not going to be what they used to for a full season, and especially Steph Curry. I mean, he's dealing with I think like some kind of knee tendonitis, and he said he could be dealing with it for the rest of his career. I mean, he's getting up there in age, and that's just the facts. So you hate to see it, but that's how it happens. And for the Warriors, outside of Curry and Green, they've got Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. They've got Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis, Pods, Brendan Pajemski. It's really, those are all role player guys. Are those guys? And I feel like that's a lot of guards I said. I think Jonathan Kuminga is the only big I said right there. I mean, you do have Kevon Looney. But I don't really know what he is. And it's like their roster's not that strong, and they're the 4 seed right now, unbelievably so. They've lost their last 4 games, so I'd expect them that trend to continue. They've gone a little quiet as of late, and that's gonna be their season. They weren't supposed to be top the NBA. They're not supposed to be one of the 1-2 seeds in the West rather. And my thinking on the Warriors season, how the rest of the year is going to play out is, and especially like their deadline strategy is, I think the Warriors will trade off some of their role players. I mean, they've talked about trading DeAnthony Melton already. I think he'll get moved. I think Kyle Anderson has potential to be moved. Same with Buddy Hield. Those are 3 guys that would be on the chopping block in my eyes. And then you go from there. You compete for a play-in appearance. And you see where the wind takes you. Maybe you get carried to second round Western Conference Finals. Who knows? Like that's the thing. NBA, it's a lot about health. It's a lot about momentum. It's so much about shooting. You could be on or off every night, especially with this Warriors team that has an overload of shooting with obviously Steph Curry. Buddy Hield's a high volume shooter. Brendan Pajemski is a really good shooter. DeAnthony Melton can shoot the lights out. The Dubs have a lot of shooters. And I think they've got to bolster their front court a little bit. They've got Kevon Looney and Jonathan Kuminga. That's about it. And you could count Draymond Green in there, but he's just looking to fight people. He might get suspended by second, third game of a playoff series. But on a serious note, I do think they need to bolster their front court depth, and I think they can live with trading off at least 1, maybe 2 of their shooting guard, like their guards that could really shoot the lights out. Trace Jackson Davis is a shooter. He could really do everything. I think in a couple years he'll be one of the guys that takes over as like the top guy on the Warriors. I guess they do have Andrew Wiggins as well, who we've seen can play at an all-star level. I don't know if I really consider him front court though. He's one of those guys where he's listed as a forward, but he does play a lot like a guard. His mid-range prowess is among the top of the league. So I guess you could consider him front court, but they definitely do need another guy, maybe 2, in the front court. All right, but I do think the Warriors will be a playing team, probably 8, 9 seed right in the middle of that. They could play in either play-in matchup, but they'll be right in the middle of the pack as far as playing goes. All right, next storyline. LaMelo Ball's domination to start this year. I know he's hurt now. He's out for 2 weeks. I think he's got a calf strain. Seems like everybody goes through a calf strain. All the big time guys go through it, like at least once a year. I think Dame had it last year. I mean, I feel like Kevin Durant had them plenty of times. It's just like everybody goes through that. I don't know why it's such a common injury. But before he got injured, he was averaging 30-plus points a game. And the sad part is the Hornets are still losing. Like, they're not doing anything right now, even with LaMelo on the court. I really do like the LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller combination. But the fact of the matter is, LaMelo Ball is never available. And if he's not going to be available, the Hornets front office has to take a long, hard look at what they have in LaMelo Ball and really decide, is this the guy we want to move forward with in our franchise, or is he too inconsistent playing-wise, and he's not able to stay on the court enough? And we need to move forward with Brandon Miller as our one, maybe draft a guy, maybe sign a guy in free agency, and then run our franchise from there. But LaMelo Ball right now, he is not the guy, in my opinion, at least. I mean, when he plays, he's awesome. He is a hooper. He is a bucket getter. He's 6'7", moving like he's 6'1". He's what Ben Simmons is. He's an athletic version of Ben Simmons. He could pass the ball incredibly well. He can shoot the lights out. I mean, he's just like nonchalant about how he plays, and like his one-legged fadeaway threes, it's like he's playing horse out there. He's ridiculous with some of the shots he takes, but he can shoot the lights out. He can shoot. He makes the shots at a consistent level, so you can't argue with it. That's the thing. The other thing is Brandon Miller versus LaMelo Ball. They can definitely coexist, but it takes time, and they haven't been playing well. I mean, if you look at the stats for this season, LaMelo, like I said, he's averaging 31 points a game, and Brandon Miller's averaging 20. I think that number is going to go up a little bit for Brandon Miller, and it's going to go down probably to 28, 29 for LaMelo Ball. That's just how the NBA works. But it's just there's not enough time for them to mesh. LaMelo, he played the first 18 games of the year for them. Hornets are 6-14. So that would be, 20? I think he's missed 2 games. Yeah, so LaMelo's played 18 games this year. He's played a lot of the games, but who knows how long this calf strain is going to keep him out for. The calf strain is one of those injuries where it starts at 2 weeks, and then he'll be reevaluated in another week, and then he's going to be out for 4 weeks. And then suddenly it's January, and he hasn't been on the court since November. So that's the thing. You have to, and this is the second year of Brandon Miller, and last year LaMelo Ball did not play many games. LaMelo Ball last year, he only played, let me see. Last year, he did play in 58 games. I mean, it's not Joel Embiid numbers, but it's also not good. I mean, missing 24 games. That's like almost that's more than a quarter of the season. So you gotta be on the court a little bit more than that if you want this to work with Brandon Miller, because he's a young guy. He's only his second season of his career as a sophomore season for Brandon Miller. He's a high volume shooter. He can play defense. He's lanky. He can play like a guard, or he can play like a forward. You have to be on the court with him to see what kind of player works better for him. What style of play is going to be more deadly? Is it better if he plays like a forward, setting screens, pick and roll, pick and pop? Or is it better if he plays like a 2-guard and you have a deadly backcourt down in Charlotte? So LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller have some figuring out to do. And I think the Hornets front office has to be very integrated in this process and talk about whether do they want to move forward with LaMelo, or is there another guy they see in college basketball or around the league that's going to become a free agent that they think they could pair up with Brandon Miller, and it would work really well. All right, third story. I have 4 for the episode. The Milwaukee Bucks, they are figuring it out. They've gone on a tear recently, 8-1 over the last 9. Giannis has looked dominant. I mean, a 40-point triple-double the other night. He's looked on fire. He's been crushing it. And Dame has also been playing really well, that Giannis and Dame connection. This is what the Bucks were seeing and were envisioning when they traded for Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers. Giannis is averaging, let me see here. Dame is averaging 25 and 7. Giannis, it feels like he's scoring 30 points every couple of nights at this rate. Giannis is averaging 32 points. Dame is averaging just under 26. But the other thing, Dame is facilitating. He's averaging 7 assists per game. That is something that we haven't seen from him very much throughout his career. And yeah, I know that's in Portland. This isn't a knock on Dame. In Portland, he didn't have much talent around him. But now he's got guys around him. He's got Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's an all NBA, potentially MVP level basketball player. So he's got the ability now to pass and to trust his teammates, something he didn't have in Portland. And another thing the Bucks were envisioning was hiring Doc Rivers. This is what they thought was going to happen when they fired Adrian Griffin at, whatever it was, 32-9 last year, I believe. Maybe it was a little bit worse, but that's besides the point. They were dreaming of these 8-1 stretches where Giannis looks dominant, Dame is dishing and swishing, and the Bucks are firing on all cylinders. That didn't happen last year. It's hard to play for a new coach halfway through the season, but this year the Bucks look a lot better. They look a lot more, just look a lot stronger, a lot more cohesive as a group. They like they know what they're doing more as opposed to figuring it out, which was a lot of last year. And again, I talked about the injuries a lot with LaMelo Ball, but Giannis and Dame both have to stay healthy. I mean, they were both out in the playoffs last year. And like I said, the NBA playoffs are so much about injuries that could ruin the Bucks season yet again. So you got to watch out for the Bucks in the East. 100%. There's a team that I think can win the East. I think the Celtics are going to be very hard. I'm not very scared of the Cavs. I know I keep saying that. And here we go again, the weekly standings tangent. But the Bucks right now, they're sitting at 5th in the East, 7 games back, a game and a half back of the Knicks, who are 4th in the East, and 3.5 back of the Magic, who are 3rd in the East. The Magic staying afloat with Paolo, by the way. Without Paolo, he's got that orbital fracture. He's out indefinitely. I think he's coming back in a couple weeks, actually, is what I read yesterday. But the Bucks, they're going to be in the playoffs. They probably aren't going to have a home court advantage for any rounds of the playoffs. But they're a team you got to watch out for. You have to pay attention to the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right. Last storyline of the episode. The Pelicans injury, their injury problems right now, and this Brandon Ingram saga that's going on, this contract, this contract issue that at the Pelicans and Brandon Ingram are not agreeing. I'll get to that after I talk about the injuries. This is a two-parter. The Pelicans have about 8 guys that are like rotation guys that are injured right now. I mean, you got Zion, obviously. You got Jose Alvarado, who is one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA. He's injured right now. I mean, for God's sake, you got Elfrid Payton, former Knick. No knock on Elfrid Payton, but he wasn't in the NBA to start this season. And now he had an 18 assist game I think last week, just in this past week. Elfrid Payton is the starting point guard again in the NBA. I didn't think I would say that again. But the thing is, you're not going to be successful if you're missing 8 rotation guys, including your number 1 overall pick in Zion Williamson. He has missed so much time, and it just goes to show that these big lumbering guys, they don't usually work out. I mean, you got Greg Oden, you got Zion, obviously, and there are others on this list. They're just always injured. I mean, who was the other one? I was thinking of someone else before this episode, before I started recording. I didn't write it down. I should have. But there's one more guy I was thinking of. But missing 8 guys, including your best player, Zion Williamson, who has proved that he could be an all-star in the NBA, it doesn't work. That's not a recipe for success. So the Pels, they have to figure it out, or they're not gonna win games. I mean, they're dead last in the NBA, in the Western Conference right now, at 4-14, I believe. Same record as the Wizards, or the Sixers, by the way. 4-17, and the Sixers are 4-14. Wow, Falcons have played 3 more games. That doesn't mean anything though at all. All balances out. But now let's get to some Brandon Ingram talk. Brandon Ingram was probably the highlight, the key piece in that Anthony Davis trade. I mean, you also had Josh Hart in that trade. But since Ingram got traded to New Orleans, he's blossomed into a high-volume, consistent, mid-range. He's just been an awesome scorer since he got traded to the Pelicans. He's been Mr. Consistent. He has had a little bit of injury struggles. I mean, he's out right now as well. I mean, the list just goes on for the Pelicans. I think Daniel Tice was starting the other day against the Knicks. But Ingram has really improved his game, taken his scoring abilities to the next level. And to me, New Orleans absolutely has to pay Brandon Ingram. It doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't. Because Brandon Ingram he's done nothing wrong in New Orleans. And I think he's someone that he's not going to be as integral a piece as he is right now if the Pelicans return to relevancy. But if you have him, you have Zion, I guess, and then you're going to need another superstar piece, because I don't consider Ingram or Zion superstars. But Ingram, you should give him the contract he wants, because he has really proved what he can do in New Orleans. And I don't know where he fits in better in the NBA. I know somebody's going to pay him, but he would be best on the Pelicans. And I think for Brandon Ingram's sake, it's probably in his best interest to sign with the Pelicans, because you don't know what your situation is going to be like anywhere else in the NBA. And you have a role as, if not the top guy, the second guy in command on the Pelicans. So I think for both sides, they just have to work together and work out a deal. I mean, Ingram just signed with Clutch Sport, Rich Paul's agency. Rich Paul is connected to LeBron. That's his agent. That's how he broke it, like really broke in. That's how he's the top guy now. As far as NBA agents go, the Scott Boras of the NBA. But yeah, I think Ingram is going to go back to New Orleans. I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable, and I think it's the best move for both sides. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm thinking about moving around the associations to Mondays permanently. I think it's better for me, and I don't know, I like it better on Mondays anyway. All right, that's going to do for this episode. If you enjoyed, consider hitting that like button, following, or subscribing based on your platform. If you want to leave a voicemail, you can do so at 848-305-8073. Make sure you go check out all the links in the description below. And most importantly, keep it locked with the Sports Pod.